Before we get
In
started, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Before we get started, I want to tell you how much I enjoyed uh, last week's Thursday's class. I mean, he gave us so much food. I'm getting
Yeah.
fed from all of the information he gave us. I truly enjoyed. Uh,
Oh, wonderful.
yes, I truly enjoyed it.
Thank you so very much. And I'm going to relay that um, to Reverend Moore. He is such a good friend of mine. I'm going to relay that to him. Thank you so very much. Thank you for joining us. All right. Yes, let me share the thanks, Carl. Let me share our screen. I love to bring you other we're small at Atlanta Metro, and as we start to grow, then you'll have more staff. But I said I always want to bring you other, what's the word, perspectives, other scholars, and we learn that way. We learn that way. All right, everybody, I am going to go to your class page, and I hope you can see me moving around. And y'all, I can't believe it. We are at the end of this semester. Time is just moving by. We're almost into what, May? Yeah, the fifth month. So we're in the fourth month, fourth, and almost going towards the end of this fourth month. So, with that said, students, I want to take this time, and I'm also recording this for our students who can't make it. I want to take this time to talk about your research paper, your final research paper. Before we get into our second part of our lesson today about crusades, I want to do a little sharing session with you all with your papers. And you researched some interesting people, some interesting figures. And so we'll just chat about those figures after we do this. So let's talk. All right, everyone. We are moving towards the end of the semester, and I know that it can be challenging, just in this COVID world, right? We're learning online, and this is kind of like an accelerated pace. So many times we can't dive into something the way we want to. And so in the final research paper, this is also your time to research not a person, but a particular time or particular segment or a particular subject dealing with church history. So not necessarily a person, but you're going to deal with a subject regarding church history. So we'll talk about your person a little bit later. And your book is full of examples. One of the things I like about our book, because it's like a cursory glance, it kind of gives us little snippets of people. It doesn't give us a lot. And so if you say, oh, well, I want to learn more about this particular person, then you can always pick that up, or a particular subject. So what I have done is the final research paper, as you see there at the top, I'm going to clean my glasses, is 20% of your grade. And I have to say that I'm so thankful for all of you because you turn in your things in on time. Thank you. But to those folks who are watching, I have to say over and over again, please make sure that you turn in your work, because if it's not turned in, I can't give you a grade, and then the grade's not going to be really cool at the end of the semester. Your book is full of a few examples. Here are just a few that are on the screen. The Council of Nicaea, Christian church, and let's say in Russia, or you can talk about the Christian church anywhere. We talked about how the church began to move in so many different places. Remember how we talked about how it moved in Asia and parts of Europe, Great Britain, Poland. So you can choose any particular area. This is just an example. Let's say you're interested in the Crusades. That would be, and we're going to talk more about them today. That would be a really good topic, or maybe you focus on the first, the second, or third. There was also a fourth. There was also a children's crusade. Another topic is African Christianity. That's a real good one. So I won't have to go through the whole list here. These are just examples. These are just examples. You could focus in on a certain aspect of church history, maybe the Black church during a particular time frame, maybe how enslaved Africans found uh, 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 I can't find the word, opportunities to worship. So these are just examples, y'all. This paper should be at least 5 pages, double spaced. And I want you to follow the directions for MLA format that's located in syllabus and resources at the top of your page. Make sure that you have at least 3 sources, and you can always use your textbook to help you. But when I say sources, it could be another book, it could be a documentary, it could be an article, it could be from the encyclopedia, a dictionary, anything else other than yourself. Make sure that you have a clear introduction. Your introduction can walk us into this particular topic and you tell us about it. And then your thesis says, well, today I'm going to tell you about how the Black church got started and 3 particular aspects of the Black church or whatever. In the body of your paper, you'll tell us about those aspects that you're sharing about whatever your situation is, and then a conclusion. And also make sure you have a works cited page. Oh, I see I have a typo here. This is from last year. So this is, today is the 20th, y'all. And this assignment is going to be due on my birthday, May the 2nd, Sunday, May the 2nd, okay? Sunday, May the 2nd, and we want to make sure that everything's in by then. So I'm going to change this because on the screen that's from last year, it says April 27, but just remember it'll be due on Sunday, May the 2nd. All right, let me stop talking, and any questions, comments so far? All right. Okay. All right. Well, and of course, if you do, you just stop me and let me know. Let's pause a little bit, and I'm going to come back to you all. Let's pause a little bit, and I've honestly been impressed, and I so enjoyed coming and talking to you during our class periods. Let's open our microphones and do a little sharing session. While you all are talking, I'm not going to put them on the screen, but if you would share with us who you researched for your historical figure paper. And if you would, just share a little bit about that person. So I want to say thank you to Ramona, Cavetta, Nicholas, Carl, Brian, and Lester.
Okay, I guess since you called my name first, I researched Emperor Irene of Athens. That's what I researched. And there was so much about her. I think you could tell from the paper. There was so much about her, but I really was intrigued by the fact that she was one of those women who was the first. She was the first.
Ramona, say your person again. Was it Irene?
Irene, Empress Irene.
Empress Irene. Okay, take it away. Keep going. I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Signed documents as emperor. She was, I guess, it was a sign of the times where everybody was, well, actually no, the time is still today. We just do it different. Everybody want to be the top one, but at that time that she came along, women, especially so-called upper-level women, were expected to be able to take care of the household, take care of the children, be the wife, be the mother. But something I did not realize, she also was responsible for the property. In other words, the house, the maintenance of the
Yeah.
house type of thing. And she was also responsible for the servants. So that was interesting to me for upper level women. And there was not the opportunity to rise up. It's kind of interesting. I guess I should have put it in the paper. And it seems like that could be the same thing today. For
Yes.
the flip side of it is, I did read that there was not a large population of women at that time. So it seems to me, with all the wars we have fought and what we've been doing through our history, sent our men off the war, we do have an imbalance of genders right now between male and female, and some countries, particularly China, when they did that one child situation, they had the unintended consequences. But Irene was a fascinating woman in that she maintained her own. She held her own with all the guys,
Yes.
all the guys. I mean, plots to kill her. Um, some of the what she did to maintain her position. She had to fight her deceased husband. That's how she became real. She came from a family in upper level family in Athens, but not as high level as an emperor or empress family. She wasn't
Okay,
high
so good. Okay, so let's put it in perspective. I have her picture, well, several pictures up on the screen. So Ramon, remember y'all, many times in history we got to put the place in perspective. So Ramona said she was Empress of Athens. So we're in Greece. Okay, keep going, Ramona.
she also she had to fight some of the fights that her husband was doing, and that's how she came to such high level. She married into a high level. She came um, on that emperor level, and when her husband passed, she still had they had one son. They had a minor child, and so she became what's called regent. In other words, she was handling things till her son became of age. And as always, when the son got ready to take over, and we have to remember, at this time, people did things much earlier in life. They have
Yeah.
12, 13, 14. They had children because they tend to die a little bit much younger than we do now. And so her thing was, she was empress. She was gonna stay empress, and that's what she fought to do. She even fought her relatives by marriage, which was her husband's half brothers. She fought them until she finally, and it actually went over into where her son, when he became an adult, he had to fight his uncles. So they by our standards, they would be considered kind of vicious or ruthless because
Mhm.
some of the things they had, some of the things they did when exile didn't work.
So here's a thing too. I know you probably saw this in your study, Ramona. I didn't mean to cut you off. Y'all remember these councils, right? And what was the purpose of these councils? Y'all remember it was like council of this and council of that.
The
What was the purpose?
the councils were to say, this is how we're going to practice our faith. This is how
There
we're going
you
to
go.
do what we're going to do. Either we're going to do it this way or we're going to do that way.
There
She
you go.
came from, which was fascinating about her, is that they don't talk about her when she was a young person or a young child or how she was educated, but we know she was educated because she was a firm believer in icons, and
Okay.
she married a man that did not. Matter of fact, he took out some people that didn't go the way he wanted it to go. And
Okay.
not not have an icon, and he
All
felt
right.
that we should not have icons um, because of the fact that he felt that those people who were Jewish and those people who were Muslim were hesitant in becoming them being able to convert them to Christianity
Okay.
because of the belief in icons.
All right, so she got it there. Thanks, Ramona. So remember, y'all, Irene is really interesting as a woman leader. Second thing too, we want to remember when we try to put all of these pieces together is that when she was empress, right? She called the Second Council of Nicaea around I think it was about 787 or so. And as Ramona spoke, can I call her Miss Irene? So Empress Irene condemned iconoclasm. And she said it was wrong, it was heretical. So I just want you to see, isn't this awesome? We're in 2021, right? And we finally have a lady vice president in 2021. It took us a long time, but anyway, that's just really interesting to see. In the 700s, we have a woman leader. Well, in Athens, they had a woman leader who was making decisions that still affect the modern church today. Isn't that interesting? So I want to say thank you so much. This is really good. All right, who's next? I want you to just share briefly your person and just tell a little tidbits that you found interesting about them. Everybody's quiet. Carl, you want to go next?
Oh.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt Carl, but I was just saying, listen, I mean, you know better than we know, but there were a lot of women in the Bible.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I mean, Jael, there were a lot of women that took charge in the Bible as well.
Yes.
During biblical days and all, and but you don't hear much about them. You don't hear preachers preach about them. Esther, people like Esther, for example.
Deborah.
I mean, just to make mention of that, so to speak.
Excellent. I put another name on there too. Thank you, Lester, for lifting that up. I put another name on there, Deborah.
Deborah, okay.
Yeah.
Deborah.
Esther. Okay. Thank you. Carl's having some internet issues. Sorry about that. Thank you for that, Lester. And Lester, that's so good. As we look back to, even if you look in the Old and the New Testament, let me go over here. I'm in the chat and I'm putting names in the chat that are just coming off the top of my head. Y'all hear me as a scholar. So when the canon, which is our Christian Bible in the Old and New Testament, well, we know from research and from scholarly texts is that most of the books, if not 100% of the books, were written by males. And sometimes when you read the Bible, the women, it may say like so-and-so's wife or something. And then sometimes the woman's name was not mentioned, but still the women there are women present from Old to New Testament that were strong, that were leaders, that defied a lot of the odds that they still had in their Jewish society, right? Deborah was a leader and a prophet. We talk about Esther in the New Testament. I'm gonna put in here New Testament, then I'm gonna move on because I'm gonna talk all day. Individuals like is it Chloe, Susanna. Y'all can look up these names. Susanna. There's another woman and her name is escaping me right now. Phoebe, who started churches in their homes. Mary Magdalene, and I'm done.
Ruth.
Ruth.
Ruth. I'm saying Ruth was
Sorry about that. Say it
Ruth was
again. Lester.
powerful too, and she left a good message there. She was of devotion and things like that. You know, the Book of Ruth. You know, I mean, there've
Are
been
you
some.
saying
There
Ruth?
was some. There was some around now.
Oh yes, yes, yes. So that's a good point to lift up. Thank you so much. And so right, it's a continuing, what's the word, tradition, that sometimes they have to defy those odds, but the women can still, and we've seen them be strong leaders, of the church. Good job. So Lester, go ahead. I'm gonna come back to you. Who was your person?
Um, Saint Augustine. I wrote on Saint Augustine. Saint Augustine of Hippo. Saint Augustine. I don't know if you hear me or not.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Well, I wrote about him because he's a black man. They never they never give him his props.
All right.
Unless you research him, you're not going to know about him because the church, the Bible, and the preachers and all, they don't talk about him. But Northern Africa at that time, during his time, was a part of the Holy Roman Empire. Right, he came up in the Holy Roman, during that time. But I'm saying Northern Africa, there was Mauritania, then you got Carthage, and you had Tunisia, this kind of thing. All right, the whole, and Liberia, Libya. I'm sorry, Libya, and then in Egypt. But anyway, the northern section there, that was the Holy Roman Empire. He was a smart individual. He had God-given gift of mental gifts. Okay, a gift of speech, and gifts of delivery, and gift of writing. But it wasn't polished until late in his life because of a lot of things. Just like his life parallels all of us, as far as I'm concerned, because a lot of us came up hard, and he too, he came up hard. He came up hard. His mother was a Christian, but his father was a businessman that didn't pay much attention to him, so he didn't have, that patriotic reflection that guided his life. His mother was his, she did some guiding, but it wasn't like a father. His father was rich. Well, they owned land, he owned slaves, but this, he within his family, he had a brother, he had a sister. The family wasn't intact because his family was paying attention to making money, and his mother, didn't have the control that she could have or should have. But long story short, he had a wild childhood. He was bad. He was okay. He was hyperactive. Okay.
Yeah.
And all right, but he went to school. He didn't do well. He played bad dice. He did all the bad things that a teenager would do when he was doing his teenage years and all. And it didn't get in control until his folks sent him away to school. They had money, so they were able to do that. He changed his environment. His behavior changed. He was at a different school. And his lights started to come on. The instructors and all noticed that he had the gift of speech and the gift of writing, so they polished it, and he went on to like that. And as he grew, he can, he was a pagan at one time. He knew it was wrong, but he did it anyway because he went with the flow of the crowd.
Okay.
He went with the flow of the crowd. And he finally went to Milan, and in Milan he met Saint Ambrose, and it was somebody that led a man, a smart man that led him down the right path, and from there he was able to gain control of himself. But he too acknowledged, that he had a lot of flaws. He had a problem. He had a woman problem. He's womanizer, so to speak. He had a lot of women. He had a lot of illegitimate children. His mother didn't like it, but she talked to him about it, but he wouldn't. It would go in one ear and out of the next. You know, he's hanging with the wrong people, but he finally got control of himself. And then he got respect from the Christian world because of the writings he wrote. He was able to write a lot of books, and his writings was something that all the other theological people and patriots and they saw his reflection. They saw that the gift in him, and they brought him into the fold, whereby he was groomed to be a priest, and he was groomed to be a pope.
Right.
Okay. And I'm just saying, but his life, but it wasn't easy. It was hard. It was hard for him, but he did it. But I'm just saying that's the parallel of a lot of us, a lot of Black folks.
Yeah.
We have a hard life, but we have gifts, but we have to find them. And he he found his gifts, and he did well in life, and he did well. He did well in life, and he promoted and promulgated Christianity. Okay.
Lester, I don't want to cut you off. This is really good. One of the key things that I want y'all to hear, and I put the picture up as Lester was talking. Lester honed in on where St. Augustine came from, which was Northern Africa. St. Augustine is African. And I'm gonna put the pictures back up real quick. Let me see if I can find it as I'm finding it. But many times, as Lester said, he is, like many other theologians and scholars, is portrayed as European. And he is not. Let me go back real quick and see if y'all can see these pictures. He also, Lester, did you find, I think I went out of it. Let me go back to the pictures. Lester, did you find the titles of his books? One of them was
Confessions. Well, Confessions was that impressed me the most, because it told his life story, so to speak.
Yeah, people. Here's the pictures again. Y'all, I want you to, as we're learning, as your classmates are sharing, I want y'all to pull this. Now look on the screen. Now Lester is giving us the research, and he said where he came from, where St. Augustine came from. And I know I'm talking a lot because this is so good. Have y'all heard of locations or cities or schools named St. Augustine?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm from New Orleans. We have a school named St. Augustine.
Oh.
I went to St. Augustine Catholic Church. That's the church I went to when I was,
Yeah.
So he's not new to me,
That's right. And so look, there's so many of these places named after these people that we don't really know. There's a Saint, I think they call it St. Augustine, right?
St. Augustine,
in Florida. Okay. I want to say, y'all help me out. I want to say it's the HBCU.
No, well, there's an HBCU down there, but it's not St. Augustine. You got.
Is St. Augustine a college?
No, there is one. Yes, there is one. I'm sorry. There's a St. Augustine College. I think it's in North Carolina or South Carolina.
I'm looking it up right now. Y'all see it on the screen? This would say Florida, but anyway. Okay, University of St. Augustine. There's another one. No, there's another one. I want to say it's HBCU. But I wanted y'all to see those pictures. It's gonna bother me because many times.
Okay.
Say Raleigh.
In Raleigh.
Here you go. Yup. You got it. That's it. I got it on the screen, y'all. Yeah. Okay. It's the HBCU, St. Augustine's. We used to play them. I went to Johnson C. Smith. I remember playing them. I just didn't know exactly where it was. But anyway, I just said all that to say we have a lot of these individuals that still have influence, and we hear these names that are going around, and we don't know. We're getting the connection of who they are. Lester told us where St. Augustine came from and his teachings, and even as he tried to strengthen people and strengthen other church leaders that came ahead of him, before him, he had books that were there to serve as not just research, but almost like a guide on what you do when you're in ministry or a priest. So thank you so much, Lester. This is so good. Thank you, Ramona and Lester. Let's hear from Brian. Carl, is your internet okay? If not, you can type.
You said who?
It's so.
Okay. So Carl will come right back to you. Brian, are you able to talk?
Yes, man. You
Oh,
you talking about you doing it on the people? You did the what's the name paper on, right?
yes, sir. You turned one in. You forgot? Let me tell you who you did.
Yeah, I did mine on Justin Martyr.
Justin Martyr.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Mr. Justin.
Yeah, Justin, he was born around the Palestine, but like, yeah, first thing first though, his life was very, very short, so it wasn't really too much. It was really too much of anything they could really put about him since he was killed for his faith. Well, martyred, as you martyred, as they say. But so what most of the authors did, they pretty much took his apologies, his works and everything, and pretty much kind of, since he provided a lot of his personal details within those apologies, his works and everything, they pretty much took all of that they could and try to form some kind of, it wasn't enough to form a complete autobiography, but to kind of give some kind of information about his life. So he was born in Palestine around 100 AD.
Palestine.
And,
I'm going to get a picture of real quick. Go ahead.
And he lost his life in 165 AD.
And
so
tell
a lot
us that you learned about him leading up to, I got some pictures of him up on the screen, leading up to him losing his life. Did you learn anything on the whys? And I know he was standing up for his religion.
Yeah, like pretty much most of the, he pretty much predicted his death in his work called The Apology. This is his second work of apology. He predicted that he would be persecuted and crucified by Christians and stuff who were companions of St. Paul.
Wow.
Yeah. But turns out though the Christians were actually pursuing him, but they never actually killed him though. He was actually killed by someone named Rusticus.
Okay. Wow. So
there's been many debates and uncertainties about his death as well, and exactly who killed him. Some still believe that it was the Christians, but then others state that it was Rusticus.
So they probably still not sure.
Right. It's kind of crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, he didn't grow up in a Christian home at all, though. His family was pagans. He was in a pagan family in Flavia, Neapolis, Palestine. And his family trained him in like the ancient Greek philosophy traditions and all of that. So he didn't start getting into Christianity until he started like started his studies in school. Like he personally was unsatisfied with his studies because it didn't provide them with a belief system that would give their students like theological and metaphysical inspiration.
Wow.
So it left him unsatisfied. But he met a man by a sea. I believe it was the Red Sea.
Okay.
And the man he met followed a philosopher named Socrates. And after reading his writings, after reading Socrates' writings, Justin was convinced that the path of philosopher could only come through the adoption of Christianity. So, because he was moved by that man's argument, he ended up renouncing his previous faith, his philosophical background, and he chose to dedicate his life to Christ and spread Christianity around his land as the true philosophy.
Wow. Wow, this is good. This is good. And this is also helping me as well. I mean, there are so many people, aren't there?
Yeah.
You find Justin interesting? Only. Brian, did you find the story rather interesting?
Yeah, I did. He's definitely interesting.
Good job. Thank you so much. All right, this is good. Justin Martyr, thank you, Brian. And Carl, how's your connection coming?
Good.
All right. Who was your person? And tell us a little bit about him.
Okay. The person I wrote was Johannes Gutenberg. He was born in the city of Mainz, which is like a German city. During the time it was under the Holy Roman Empire, I believe it was called. The family that he was born to was a group that was called patricians. These were like people who were able to like trade in cloth, sit on city council, and didn't have to pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
He worked. He was born among 3 children. One elder brother named Frele, and an older sister named Elise. Both of them named after their parents. It was. Let's see. He had worked with his father in the doing metallurgy, which is like the art of like shaping of metals.
Yes.
At one point his family had to move out of the city because there was like a confrontation, a huge conflict between like the patricians and the guild members that was there, because it's like the guild members were angry about how the patricians seemed to have better qualities of life and like better chances than they were, since like the guild members were able to pay were the ones who paid taxes, but the patricians didn't.
Yeah.
And that was like a conflict on this at Gutenberg City that happened like throughout this whole life.
So as you're sharing, Carl, tell us a little bit. Did he have anything to do with printing?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
He started his printing work over in Strasbourg, which is like a currently modern France,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where he like started his work on instead of the printing press. It was actually at the time he created in secret so as not to let anybody reveal it to anybody, because like if somebody found out, they could like design it better and oversell him. So he had a lot of different people who had helped finance him. At one point he did there was a few setbacks when trying to finance due to different things happening, like once when he was trying to provide extra money through the mirrors that some of his group, like some mirrors that he was creating for for a pilgrimage. They weren't able to sell any of them because of the Black Plague.
Oh.
And then one of his members that he worked with making mirrors had died of said plague, and then his brothers sued Gutenberg for recouping the brothers' losses.
Okay.
All right.
So in your research, Carl, I didn't mean to cut you off. In your research, his printing, right? Did you research what did he print that was like really big?
Oh, right. The biggest thing he printed was like the Gutenberg Bible.
All right, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put a picture up.
Sorry. Yeah. The main reason he said the Gutenberg Bible is because he had heard of a cardinal named Cardinal Nicholas of Cusa. Nicholas had wanted to have a Bible that was more standardized because, like at the time, different translators, different people who translated the Bible had like different mistakes and like their own interpretations based on their biases. So Nicholas had wanted that to be changed, and Gutenberg decided to set up his own Bible that's based on the translation, and using the printer, he allowed it to keep it the same way. However, he wasn't able to keep said Bible, his said work, because of a lawsuit he got with one of his financiers, whose name was Johann Fust, who
Okay.
But yeah, that's generally what he did with the Gutenberg Bible. I think one of his also earlier works he did was
So this is good. This is good, Carl. So this is around, I'm gonna stop share. This is around about the 14, am I right, about maybe about the 1400s or so?
Right.
The Gutenberg Bible comes out, and as we transition, I believe this Bible, y'all, is not in English. It should be in, I'm reading here, I want to say this one is in Latin. Did you find out what language it was in, Carl? Let's see if I'm wrong. Was the Gutenberg Bible in Latin?
I believe it was Latin. I have to check on it.
Okay. So this Bible, thank you so much. So for let me come back to you all. The key thing that we want to bring out from Gutenberg, Johannes Gutenberg, is he did a lot of things, but as Carl focused in terms of church history, having now we're starting to get into printing. Now this is before, hold on y'all, this Gutenberg's Bible is before the King James Version, which comes around the maybe about the 1600s or so. So Gutenberg is before what a lot of people may know more so now as the King James Version, which was in English. That was more like a King's English, which is, kind of hard to read for us now. Thank you, Brian, Carl, Ramona, and Lester. You all are great presenters, and we learned a lot. Y'all stay right there. I'm going to transition real quick. I want to talk about the Children's Crusade. There's so many different things in history, period. But even as you start to break history down, and as we're talking about church history, there's so many different nuggets. There's so many different people to pull in. All right. All right, everybody, I'm going to come back to you. And we are going to talk about the Children's Crusade. Now, last week, let me see if I can pull up my screen real quick. Last week, we did start talking about, let's go back and talk about Crusades real quick. I know we're at 11:47. We're kind of short on time. What was the purpose of a crusade, y'all? Let me come back to your class. What was the purpose of a crusade? Do you guys remember?
Sometimes it was to spread Christianity, and other times it was just to go in and to take other people's lands.
Yes, yes. So twofold, and probably maybe threefold as well. So it wasn't just one thing, but it was the key thing that we spoke about last week. It was people moving into different groups, moving into other territory. People are territorial, right? And when we believe that something is ours and it has been invaded, we will launch an all-out effort to go and get it back. And so that's what Christian groups did. They wanted to move into what was, you guys remember, particular area that they felt was holy, that was being kind of taken over, that the Christians thought?
I think Jerusalem, or the Holy Land.
Holy Land, and I heard somebody else say start with a J.
Jerusalem.
All right. And it was being, they felt being invaded or moved in upon what type of people?
Muslims.
What religion?
Muslims and Jews.
There you go. So when people feel that something is theirs, they launch these crusades. So the second thing, as Ramona said, is there were also crusades to move into different territories and to share the faith of Christianity. But did y'all remember from last week that many times when they launched these crusades with Muslim groups, it was interesting. They just wanted the land back. They didn't necessarily want to convert them. So for this week's discussion, we're going to talk about the purpose of crusades. And you can see the chapter on war and peace. I think that is 13. Do y'all think that the crusades were beneficial? And then you're going to explain if you thought that those crusades were beneficial, because there were several of them. It was a first, it was a second, it was a third crusade, and then there was even a children's crusade. And in your discussion post, do you think that crusades would be useful in modern times? In modern times of what we find ourselves. War and Peace, chapter War and Peace is chapter 12. I'm sorry, not 13. Okay. All right. So let me come back to your class real quick. I want to talk to you about the Crusades, and then we'll be done. If you look in week 8, everybody, in week 8, I added, I think we started talking about this video last week. I'm not going to play it right now, but there's also a Crusades handout. This is not due or anything. I just thought it was a really cool handout that explained things pretty well. Many times I know for me, I got to read it over and over and over again. So I just want to chat about this. We can have a discussion. And remember, many times we're trying to figure out what's going on and what's the purpose. So if you look over here, can y'all see my screen where it says Crusades and it's like a little table?
Yes.
Okay. I always get scared. So there are 4 crusades that happen over about 200 years. Isn't that something? So we started about the first crusade about 1095 to 1099. So these things don't just pop up and end. Second Crusade, the 1100s, about the middle of the 1100s. Third Crusade is towards the end of the 1100s, and the Fourth Crusade happens at 1201 to about 1204. And so I gave you this sheet to just kind of help you put things in perspectives, because it can be confusing. So in the first, let's just go through this real quick. So in the First Crusade, remember the timeline, y'all. I have to see things on paper because it gets confusing. So the timeline is about 1095 to 1099. That's a few years. And at the urging of Pope Urban, y'all remember we had a discussion post a couple of weeks ago that talked about papacy and popes being good or bad and stuff like that. Y'all remember? And so here's an example of Pope leadership. So anyway, Pope Urban II in 1095, he says the First Crusade, at the urging of him, the First Crusade succeeded in taking Jerusalem. So y'all remember that some of the purposes is going and reclaiming the Holy Land, Jerusalem, and was most successful from the European point of view. And when Jerusalem fell in about 1099, okay, let's look at what happened. Crusaders, they just a trip, massacred and killed Jews, Christians, and Muslims. And then what happens? Then the leaders come and they divide up land into different territories. And I believe we talked about this last week. Somebody brought it up last week. Y'all help me. We are still fussing and fighting. Oh, and when I say we, not us on this line, but people, humans, are still fussing and fighting, literally killing individuals over this treasured land in the Middle East, even today in 2021. And so I like this handout because on the right-hand side, we can say, ooh, was this a win or a lose? What do y'all say for the First Crusade? You think that was a win or a lose? Let me see if I can make this bigger.
I think it was a win. It seems like it was a win for the Crusaders, and for the First Crusade.
For the First Crusade, okay. And it's interesting in this summary, it seemed like it was a win from the European point of view, but because they were able to get Jerusalem, but then what's the end result here? Everybody's not living.
It's divided by. Oh, it was divided.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they're divided. And okay, y'all. I also want you to see something as well that's happening. Y'all see the last sentence. Y'all see the last sentence right here in this first box. Then the leaders divided up the land into territories, each governed by a, y'all check this, European feudal lord. If you don't check anything else out, European. So students, what I want you to also see is history repeats itself, doesn't it? You will begin to see in history, years and years and years later, that European countries will then begin to continue this movement of moving into different countries in Africa, in the Caribbean, South Africa, and begin to take over territories and govern them. I was just in the post office this morning. You spend all day in there trying to get in because only one person's working. And there was a gentleman behind me. We were waiting so long, we just started talking. He was from Trinidad. And then there was a lady behind him, and she said, well, do you all speak French? And he said, no, we don't speak French. He said, but we speak the Queen's English. and he just talked about growing up in Trinidad and the what's the word? The impact or the rule that Britain had over them, and many other territories, British West Indies. So anyway, I just want you to see that particular type of colonialism will continue even till today. All right. So I recognize we're at 11:57. So anyway, the Second Crusade, this is really interesting because now the Second Crusade started when the Europeans lost control of different territories. And so now you'll see that we get this tit for tat, this bad thing going back and forth. Territory that had previously been controlled, and now it's moved to Muslim control, led by King Louis, I think that's the 7th, of France, and King Conrad III of Germany. Look at the areas, European areas. The Europeans failed to regain any land, and the crusade was a failure from a European point of view. Okay, so now let's just stop there. Second Crusade, over in the right-hand box. What would you say? Was that a win or a lose?
A lose.
A lose. Mm-hmm. Some people might see it as a win, but it was a lose from the European point of view, because y'all look, this whole thing is about power. And if you look at it, even from today, is I want this particular land. And when we have land, right, we can control it. We can control the people, and we can tell them what to do and all that stuff. Third Crusade, let me move fast. Third Crusade was a response to Jerusalem's fall back in 1187 to Salah al-Din, Saladin. These three great armies from Europe, once again, were moving through Europe, were led by Richard the Lionheart. You may have heard of him, Richard the Lionheart of England. And so what happens here is that Philip II of France and this emperor, Frederick Barbarossa, he was like this big warrior. So many times, look, when you're going into a big fight, you want to pull somebody that you know is skilled and on your side. All right, y'all, check out the last sentence in the Third Crusade. However, Frederick Barbarossa accidentally drowns, okay? And so then you have these other two quarrels with these kings, and this whole crusade fails. Do we have a win or a lose in the right category?
Lose.
Lose. And then we just can't get it together. Then we got a fourth crusade in the 1200s, about 1201 to 1204. And y'all see this again, these crusades don't end quickly. So instead of going to Jerusalem, that was our hot spot, the fourth crusade went to the Byzantine Empire's capital, Constantinople. Y'all remember way back, I want to say about chapter 3 or 4. Y'all remember who Constantinople was named after?
Constantine.
Yay, good job, Constantine. The European armies looted. They looted the city. They down there in Constantinople just acting up. They overthrew the emperor. And the main outcomes of the Fourth Crusade were to deepen a division between the Greek and Latin Christianity, and to hasten Byzantine Empire's decline. So the Byzantine Empire, and when we say decline, they're losing power. They're losing power. And now we have a divide within the Christian church. Do you think that was a win or a lose?
I think it was a lose because it wasn't as powerful as it was before. And well, now you're on the Fourth Crusade, and you got the history of all the other crusades that they did not maintain what they initially, what they said they were trying to do, which I see a lot today. We still fighting the same war.
The same war. And we really haven't come to any, what's the word, resolution.
Not at all.
So what I want y'all to see is down at the last box, y'all, the main outcomes of the Fourth Crusade. We saw a big division between different cultures that still practice Christianity. Think about it, y'all. So if somebody is Latin, and then we have the Latin group, and then we have the group Greek, the Greek Christians, and so now we don't like each other. Y'all see where this is coming from? Yep. Is that helping?
I think it also helps fuel Protestants and all the various denominations too. I think some of that had their roots back in all of this division, where people, where people like, well, I don't like what you did, so I'm gonna go do this, or I'm gonna follow this, or I'm gonna follow that. I think some of it even had some in this division, because sometimes I hear people, they ask what church do you go to?
Sure.
And I'm like, well, I'm a transplant, so I had never heard that before. And sure. I lived in several other cities, but when I came here, what church? I'm like, what difference does it make what church I go?
Don't matter, yeah.
Yeah, but and then they want to ask you, well, do you know so and so and such and such? And I think this is part of some of this. I'm on the side. I practice Greek Orthodox, whatever, or I practice this, so I'm higher, I'm closer to God, I'm this, I'm that, so.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and we own this land, we have this edifice, we have, all of that to try to, and so this is still going on today, and I think a lot of it has its roots back here when people were saying, and we still do it today, we still say we're doing things in the name of God, which is actually trying to take other people's land, trying to hurt other people. And right. I'm saying Christians, I'm saying Muslims, Jews, I mean,
yes,
people are doing it.
People are still doing it.
People are doing it, and they're doing it, saying they're doing it to recapture this. This was promised to me. This was, and after our class last semester, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
The Hebrews understood what this land was promised to them, but it was some hard-headed people.
Yes, it was.
I mean, and God gave them chance after chance after chance after chance, told them what to do, taught them, schooled them.
Still didn't do right, did they?
Still nut up.
I think
Mona say this is my promised land, but you still nutting up.
You still nutting up. Ramona, I think you summed up church history right there. She said there are a lot of they just didn't listen. They, and then throughout history, and not just church history, right, y'all? We could look at US history, European history, whatever history. People have their ideas, and sometimes those ideas are stellar, but sometimes those ideas can hurt individuals. Okay, y'all, I know we're at time and I have an appointment to get to, but I'm going to post these two videos for you. There was a children's crusade that happened in 1212. So I'm going to post this video, and then I'm going to post another short video, and you see it right up under there. They're about 2 minutes. It says Black children arrested and assaulted in Birmingham Children's Crusade. There was also a children's crusade that happened in the United States during the Civil Rights Movement, and they called this the Children's Crusade. Y'all got to watch this. So I'm going to post this within about 2 minutes or so as we leave off, and I want you to watch those in your leisure time. I know, what leisure time do you have? But learn a little bit more about the Children's Crusade, which came after the Fourth Crusade. So it's like, yeah, interesting. As Ramona was saying, we keep repeating these things, and then now watch, we bring the kids into it as well. So the kids are like, okay, we're going to march, but kids don't always make decisions for themselves. The adults were included. Okay, good people. We're going to pause here. This was an excellent session, and I love how you all shared. Remember, this week, you're finishing up your discussion. I want you to, let me go back to your page. I want you to make sure that you start working on your final paper. And when's your final paper due?
May 2nd.
May 2nd, my birthday. All right. So I'm going to also put your Dropbox in week 9, just in case if anybody gets done early. All right, everybody. I pray that you all continue to have a great day. And please stay safe.
Thanks, you too.